This network may contain controversial topics. The views and opinions expressed on the Paraspeak Radio Network are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other network hosts or advertisers.
You are listening to WPAR Digital Broadcasting, home of the Paraspeak Radio Network. All right, everyone, welcome to WPARanormal here on the Paraspeak Radio Network. We have what is probably going to be an exciting show. I don't know if we're going to get anyone to call in. I posted pretty much an open invitation out there to several paranormal online forums. We are going to be discussing the dangers of investigating the paranormal, and especially what dangers are brought in by people who really don't know what they're doing. So, for anyone who doesn't listen very often, or maybe a first-time listener to our particular show, welcome to WPARanormal. I'm Rob, and with me is the lovely and talented Nicole Bray.
Hello, everyone.
I'm seeing something exciting here in the chat room. It looks like we may be joined for at least part of the show with this wonderful guy named Bob Penny from I Want to Believe Radio. He said, sure, I'll call in. It's been a while since I've been on, but hey.
Yeah, so we'd love it.
That'd be great.
Yeah, it would.
So what we're going to be discussing today, and as I did mention, we do have open lines, so anyone who happens to have our Skype, you can go ahead and contact us through Skype, or if you do not have the Skype account, or if you're not set up with Skype, with us, our username is WPARanormal. It's pretty straightforward. But the phone number is 269-216-9727. What we were going to be discussing, as I said, is kind of the dangers related to the paranormal. I know even when I started talking about the possibility of doing this show with Nicole earlier in the week, she was kind of wondering exactly what I was getting at. And when we were discussing things, it was obvious that, unfortunately, until very recent times, I would say within the last few years, we were doing exactly what we're going to be talking about should not be done in our own investigations.
Somewhat, yeah.
But it wasn't because of the fact that we were trying to do anything wrong. It's just because our knowledge here in the field, it grows. Having done this for, forever? For 20 years or so. I mean, things have changed. But the one thing that I've noticed, and this is something that I've discussed with Bob and with you several occasions, and it's kind of the dangers of my real passion that I have in the paranormal. My passion in the paranormal has always been with EVP. And I think there's a lot of people out there who are not aware of the fact that doing EVP is a form of divination.
Mm-hmm. And for everyone who's not aware of exactly what we mean by divination, Doing EVP, doing audio sessions to try to capture EVP, which is electronic voice phenomenon, is absolutely no different than a Ouija board. It is absolutely no different than automatic writing. I just think it's really funny, and we have discussed this before, and yeah, we've discussed this with Bob. I just think it's funny with some of these new groups, and we are so against Ouija boards. We are so against Ouija boards. They are dangerous, but EVP, doing EVP session is absolutely no different.
Right. And there's the people who argue that if you're using a Ouija board, that you're actually, at that point, you're asking them to communicate through you.
Yep, same with automatic writing.
So there is that added extra thing there.
Right.
So, as I was saying, you're still practicing divination. Yes. Asking somebody to use a Ouija board is not exactly the same as doing EVP work. But you're still asking for 100% direct communication. Mm-hmm. If you're using a Ouija board, you're essentially saying, here are my hands, use my hands to get the message out.
Right.
With the recorder, you're sitting there and you're saying, here's a recorder, please manifest yourself and speak into this box. It's not the same exact level, but you're essentially, one, you're trying to channel the spirit, and the other one, you're trying to communicate with it. Either way, you're asking it to enter the room.
Well, yeah, enter the room. But a lot of times, yeah, people demand that it manifests in front of them.
But you want to know what is almost as dangerous as using a Ouija board that nobody ever thinks of? Is what people have now referred to as the flashlight trick. Do you realize that when you are trying to do the flashlight trick, you're saying, press this flashlight, manipulate this...
Yeah, you're asking for physical manipulation.
Manipulate this physical object. You're saying, hey, you, please come here and touch this object. Move it. I need you to bring so much energy into this room that you can move this object. What's the difference there? The only real difference is you're not holding the flashlight in your hand and saying, use my hand to turn this thing on. Yeah. I personally have never used the flashlight trick, but that's not because of the fact that I knew it was dangerous. It's because I know it's flawed. But even if you're not looking for it to be flawed, I mean, it is dangerous. And I don't think any of us realized exactly how dangerous things were back when we first started.
Well, it's not just a were when we first started. It's happening now, you know, with these new teams, and that's the basis of tonight's show. It's all these new teams. You know, it was a great thing when Jan Grant did the show Ghost Hunters. You know, kudos to them for allowing a network and cameramen to come into their lives and give up privacy and give up, you know, privacy with their family lives and stuff like that. You know, kudos to them. But on the flip side, it caused damage. It really caused damage, because from that moment on, you had people that, oh, look, you know, they're on TV. All they do is take pictures, and all they do is take a recorder and ask questions in the air, and they're famous, and that's how you do ghost hunting. And then they turn around and do it. You know, I have said this, I haven't said this in a long time, but I have said this on the radio show before, is when I started my team, the West Michigan Ghost Hunter Society, in 1999, there were like 5 teams in the entire state of Michigan, with Rob's being one of them. I mean, that was it. There was no team up in the UP whatsoever. And now, I mean, this was years ago. The count was at 86 teams in the state of Michigan, and it's grown since then. So I'm sure we have technically 100 or more teams in the state of Michigan. And most of these teams came about because with the start of Ghost Hunters and Paranormal stayed on TV, and that's how they learned to do everything. They didn't research. They just, wow, look at that. I can do that.
And the problem is, even the teams that have been out there a while, I mean, you have to admit, even with Bob and I, we did go and we learned from somebody who was experienced in the field, but there wasn't a whole lot of experience out there to be offered. Oh, we got a call coming in. Let me answer this.
Sure.
WPARanormal, you're on the air.
Hey, what's up there?
Hey, Bob. How are you?
Hey, good, man. Good. Just listening to the show here, you know. Kids are still kind of riled up trying to get them ready for bed here. But, yeah, man, thought I'd call in.
Oh, very cool. Very cool.
Can you turn the sound in the background down a little bit? I don't like hearing myself.
What's that? Oh, just a second here. Man, I had to do that on purpose because of Art Bell, dude. But you'd, like, yell at me and lay into, you know.
Do some Art Bell style.
Like, we
turn that show down.
Turn that gob blankety thing down. Step away from the radio, please. Please turn off the radio. Turn down the radio. Right. So I had to do that.
Caller, could you please turn down the radio?
That's right. You need to call. You need to turn down the radio. You need to turn it off, or I'm gonna hang up. All right. Never mind. I had to do that.
Yeah, and Nikki's laughing about it, and I don't think she's
ever listened. That way you guys can hear yourselves, you know?
A little bit.
Yeah. I don't know. I try not to hear myself sometimes.
Yeah, granted, same here.
Yeah.
So, were you calling to chime in on the topic, or just kind of
you know, talking about the dangers of paranormal investigations.
I think...
Yeah, you know, people don't realize, I guess, what they're truly getting into. You know, we've talked about it often many times. You know, people watch a TV show and then all of a sudden they want to get into it. You know, it's fine and dandy and stuff, but like you were talking about, good point, man. People are scared as heck about using the Ouija board, you know, but you're right, you know, EVP communication, even if you're using a recorder or, you know, spirit writing, you know, anything, even, you know, when you've got your, like the ghost phones, anything where you're trying to communicate, you know, like show us a sign, you know, you're opening yourself up to the spiritual realm. You know, you are, hence channeling or trying to channel, into the spiritual realm, right? Even though you're using a recorder
and one thing that's important one thing that's important when you just use the word channeling is when you do have somebody who is a psychic or is a professional channeler, they do certain things before they get out there and try to communicate with the spirits. You know, they cleanse their auras, they open themselves up for the communication, and when they're done, most of the time they'll close that channel of communication down. Most people out there as paranormal investigators, they don't do anything to prepare. They pull out their recorder, they set it on the table, they ask questions, and they do absolutely nothing to close it back down. Now, what I was wanting to get into on that is, here's my thought on it, and it's something that I hadn't really thought about until I was listening to, actually I think it was when I was talking to Kenneth Deal. When we do that, you know, I think we could be doing more harm to the clients than I ever really thought about. Because what's happening, honestly, we're getting calls from clients who are bothered by their hauntings. They've already told us there's a haunting. First thing we do is we try to figure out if they're crazy. So, I mean, that's somewhat... And
the majority of the cases, maybe there's a little touch of that, yeah.
Once we decide that they're not crazy, well, then what do? We now have decided we don't think they're crazy, so their house is probably actually haunted. So now that we're relatively sure their house is haunted, we go in with our equipment, and we ask this thing that has maybe just been knocking on the walls or...
we ask them to fully present themselves.
Yeah, we come in there and we say, hey, could you please come in here better? I know you've only been knocking before, but could you please come in here and start talking? Could you tap me on the shoulder? Could you please bring yourself into this person's home more than you've ever been before?
Yeah, exactly.
And then what do? We leave them.
You open up the gates, man. And then you've got to deal with it, or your client has to deal with it. Which in a lot of cases, and I know you guys do it too, but you know, sometimes when clients, they contact you because they want to know what's going on, or they become obsessed with the haunting activity, and you're like, you know, well, how about this? Let's not do a full-scale investigation. Let's not do all this and try to ignore it unless it becomes violent or escalates to another level, but try not to give it too much attention, and in most cases it dies down, if not, you know, dissipates all the way. You know, but yeah, you're right. I mean, instead of just coming out, you know, with all guns blazing and opening the floodgates, I mean, yeah, it could create havoc for the homeowner, definitely.
I mean, I'll have to admit that up until probably 4, maybe 5 years ago, at the very longest, I never did anything to try to close the channels of communication after I'd opened them. I would go in there and I would do EVP for an hour or two, and then it'd be, okay, we're going to leave. Goodbye. And we never said anything else. I mean, until probably about 4 years ago, I didn't start going through the house and praying or telling the people what they could do based on their own beliefs. I mean, I never did any of that
and the thing is, and people don't realize that, when you go into an investigation, you want to recreate that environment as it normally is, like with the homeowners. Usually the homeowners aren't calling out, doing this and that. If the spirit wants to manifest, then it'll do so. You just go amongst your daily activities. You're not walking around calling it out. I mean, really, it's really happened since, like Ghost Adventures and stuff like that, where, you're trying to flex your paranormal muscle. Hey, I'm a badass, come on out, get me, and that's where the whole disrespect for the dead issue arises, and that's a whole nother show thing, Yeah. But yeah, no, you're right, man. You're right. It's definitely.
Yeah.
So I wonder. I mean, especially with these pop-up teams, the ones. I mean, I always joke about it. I have seen surgery on TV, and let me tell you, I think being a surgeon would be awesome. I'm a pretty smart guy. I mean, if I've watched somebody take apart a computer, I can put it back together. So it would seem to me that I should be able to do the same thing with people. I've seen it on TV.
Now, dude, I've watched surgery too, and I've done it myself, man. I've actually lanced a skin tag off my neck successfully.
Woo-hoo!
So you can do that.
See? And you learned that from watching television?
Yes, man. Well, here and there,
Well,
right.
you got to
go. But Rob, these teams are, of course, when they get into it, they're looking for the excitement, they're looking for the thrill.
Oh yeah.
And, they're going to want to take on any case. It doesn't matter what. They're going to want to do everything, try and do it like the show, and that's the thing about it, man. Like we were just talking about. A lot of cases, we'll come across and we won't even do an investigation. We might talk to them on the phone or whatever and say, hey, just go amongst your regular activities and see what happens. But we're not going to go and do a full-scale investigation because we don't want to open up the floodgates. But most teams, they want to do everything, so they'll take on every case, every little,
they got to pull out everything they can possibly bring in 20 people.
Oh my God. Yeah.
I hate to say it, but I don't think this is really the case when you and I started back in the 90s or even Nicole in the late 90s. I don't think any of us were out there thinking we were going to become famous as ghost hunters.
No. Well, and to be honest, when we first started, Rob, it was more or less I'm making out with our girlfriends.
We'll be honest, okay.
Tombstone.
When we first started...
And then it kind of escalated to, hey, the rush, like, oh, cool, the old urban legend thing. And then it just took on from there. Then it became a fascination with... especially, because we've had loved ones that have passed and wanting to kind of to know what happens, after this realm. And and then but obviously it usually starts off as, interest, people do.
Right. I mean, granted, even if we were doing it in part so that we could take girls to the cemetery at night. But we were doing it at first, that was it. But then after we started thinking about it, I mean, sure, at first it was, oh, here's a glowing tombstone, let's go out there and scare the girls, and maybe they'll hug us tight or whatever. But by the time...
It's making out, dude, and if you've seen the tombstone glow, then hey.
Yeah. But once we got a little more serious, I would say even by like 94, 95, we were starting to be more serious. I mean, sure, we were still doing the urban exploring thing that was so big in the mid-90s, but...
Well, at that point in time, too, we were also messing with, there was a murder case that actually had happened in one of the cemeteries, and there had been reported shadow apparition, I know, that had happened in this certain cemetery, and it kind of became definitely, it was craziness, and it was an unsolved murder case too. And I remember one of the times we were out there investigating, I remember when the police came rolling by, and we actually had seen something. The thing is, right before the police had showed up, we had seen what it looked like, an entity or something in this in a cemetery. It was like a shadow figure. And this was fresh from, the case they were doing this investigation. It was crazy.
I know. So at least we were interested in the paranormal. And we did it more or less to want to understand what was going on. The intention was so that we could understand what happened. What happens to us when we die? I mean, yes, we know physically what happens. Our heart stops. We quit breathing, we're buried and we're gone. Realm. But we know what happens to our bodies, but we want to understand what happens maybe to our souls. And that's great. That's why I think people should be in the paranormal. But now it seems like everybody's in the paranormal hoping that it's their key to fame.
The fame, yeah.
Yep.
They're the claim to fame. Yeah, and the thing is that they, if they don't become famous or make their mark in whatever television way or, whatever way, then they get out of the biz, they call it the biz, the paranormal biz, man. And I hate to hear it called biz because it's not a business,
The biz, yep.
The biz.
The biz, well, getting the biz. And they'll use whatever angle to get into this field or to try to, find some way some claim to fame, and it's ridiculous. I mean, really, and you look at, and I know certain people we have discussions on this and disagreements, but even like haunted attractions, man, sometimes they, out of disrespect, and that's a whole other topic, but, they like create these carnival attractions out of the dead, and I think that's very wrong, in a lot of ways, and a lot of people will even try to make things up to try to make things haunted or some location to draw fame to it or attention to it. And,
absolutely.
And it happens all too often, man.
Yep.
Yeah. People will come up with, I own this old building. Let's say it's haunted and see how much money we can make doing it.
Yeah.
I mean,
granted, good ghost stories, whatever, that helps sell, but.
I'm all for saving historical locations, and if the way you can save the location is to
buy a ghost story or two,
talk about the ghost stories and do ghost tours or whatever, then more power to you. I mean, I'll be the last person out there to talk badly about ghost tours. I mean, obviously, Nikki and I run them, but but
I was going to say, don't hurt our business.
At the same time, though, I wouldn't sit there and make up a story, or I wouldn't bring people in. I wouldn't be going into like the Lizzie Borden murder house and be in there saying, "Look, this is where Lizzie killed him." And I mean, I don't really think Lizzie Borden.
The cool things that you guys, though, too, man, do is you guys do your research, man.
Oh, yeah.
And then you guys present your book. If you guys think it's false or think it's inaccurate, you'll present that. You're not going to just stick by the fact that, just go with the ghost story. I mean, you try to find all the facts and present it on the table. And here you go, man. Let the readers judge or whatever. But, and that's awesome that you do that. You don't just, go with the story all in general.
There's too many people out there that just take the same story over and over. There's actually someone out there.
You guys try to, I hate saying debunk, but you guys try to, find, okay, this is really what's happening. You guys, go back to your research and you find a lot of falsified information or things that might have been passed,
And in a way, it actually,
telephone, per se.
Yeah. Yeah.
In a way, it is almost done as a debunking. I mean, when we go out and do investigation into a story, we know that we've heard the story. We know we've heard the ghost story. And the people that say they've experienced the ghost, it doesn't take away the fact that they've had these experiences.
Oh, absolutely not.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
We want to go through and find out what could be the story behind it. Especially, probably the most visual or open public thing that we did was the research into the Ada Witch.
Oh, and for ZZM, yeah.
I mean, I know that.
Whoa!
I know back when we first started in the 90s and stuff, we went out to Findlay Cemetery. And
I think everybody did in Michigan.
And we all went out to the same tombstone and we said, oh, this is the Ada Witch. And we all had the story. And, there's variations on it, but it's all pretty similar, Mm-hmm. And the first thing we wanted to do, the first thing we did for the research on that book was we didn't go there trying to prove that she was or she wasn't the Ada Witch. We went to the records and we started looking up.
We wanted to prove
how did she
legend. Die? Yeah, how did she die?
How did she die?
Right.
Turns out that she died of illness, typhoid fever.
Yep.
So then we were like, okay, obviously she's not the right person. So who is it that had that died of injuries after a fight, and someone else was killed, and the girl ends up dying. And we went back.
They try to make it romantic, like add a romanticism.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And
there was nothing romantic about sitting there digging through the death books for 4 or 5 hours.
No. Yeah, that was fun, sitting at the county clerk's office going through these big, huge books.
Wait a minute, I found 3 people that can match it. And then, no, this guy's 80. And
this guy's 97. Nope, they're out. And the thing is, it's what I find incredible with me doing the research is what blows me away is that nobody thought of doing this before me. This Ada witch legend had been around for how many decades?
Oh, yeah.
Why nobody do this before me? Why was I the first person to do this?
The romanticism. People don't want to ruin their mojo, dude. I think they go with it. It's just kind of, legend, local legend, and they don't want to burst their bubble, or they don't want you to burst your bubble, man. I mean, just like when you investigate a home that people are, oh, this is haunted, this is all going on, and you kind of debunk and say, hey, man, it's bad plumbing, whatever, they get mad, they don't want to hear that, I mean, they don't want to hear the truth or the things that, the truth behind the haunting or what could be, actually, the facts. They don't want to hear the facts sometimes because if it's going to burst their bubble or ruin the romanticism about it, they don't want to hear it.
Right. I mean, and we actually have people that get upset about the fact that we did.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
Oh, yeah. And the thing is not only in the book, but also the story that we did with WZZM, which was more of like it talked about the haunting. So it was a ghost story that we did, but it was also kind of like an advocacy story as well, because then what we ended up doing is researching the girl that falsely was accused of being the Ada witch. Through all the vandalism, her stone was completely desecrated. She had a beautiful 5-foot stone at one point, and it was smashed to nothing. There was nothing left at all. And we were able to get a stone donated. So now she has this beautiful...
Sad. That is so sad.
I know.
People are taking her
vandalism and, wrongful vandalism for something that wasn't even anything.
Not even, and to make matters worse, I mean, it was still continuing because as we were there with the cemetery crew and of course the news crew, and we are putting this new stone in the ground, the gentleman who runs the cemetery told us that a stone that was like 2 stones away from her, same last name that also started with an S. It's not Sarah. The person just, unfortunately, their first name starts with an S, but it was very illegible. It had faded over time and whatnot, but you could make out the S and then the last name. The guy from the cemetery board said they actually found that stone in the middle of the road a couple nights before where somebody tried to steal it. I'm like, you don't even have the right person,
right.
And you're still doing it.
When they did place the new stone out there, we were asked not to mention that it was there until after the concrete had a chance to dry.
Yep.
What they ended up doing with that stone is... the stone is sitting on 4 feet of concrete?
4 feet of concrete.
And then it's set inside the concrete, and then the dirt's inside the concrete as well. I mean, you'd have to move
you
4
literally,
feet of...
you would have to dig down at very least 4 feet to get under this chunk and take the entire thing with you in order to take this stone away.
So I remember the old headstone, because people tried to fix it, and they had the old, they had the wood frame around it, and trying to hold it together, and so that original headstone is gone, right? Is that
completely gone. By the time we did the story,
there was at the very bottom of the tombstone that had been underneath the ground was still there, and there was a date that it said when it had been put on there, and then
that was it.
Yeah.
The wood pieces that were trying to hold together what was left was completely gone.
And apparently it said on the button, never mind, I was going to make a joke, because one of the people that was out there said, has it got the ratings for our station back when it was on the air? Were we still the bottom?
Yeah, right. But, it was just absolutely sad, but... Not that is a paranormal investigation, but I mean, it ties into kids' needs of thrills.
Same kind of thing. We're still talking about dangers of the paranormal.
Yes.
Yeah, we're talking about, basically getting into, investigating for the wrong or right reasons, essentially. Yeah.
Another problem we run into now is everybody wants every case to be demonic. I mean,
Oh, I know. Yeah.
There are, I mean, I was talking to Kenneth Deal about demonology and whether or not there actually is an uprising in the amount of demonic cases. And he said that there really is. I mean, legitimate demonic cases, there is a major rise from when he started 20 years ago.
Right. I almost think because the fascination with it, almost like the demonic is kind of using that energy.
Yeah, I think it's people. I think there's people out there calling up these demons without really knowing what they're doing.
Yeah.
I think it's exactly what we're talking about. These people who don't realize that using their recorders are doing the divination, that they're actually asking for direct communication. People saying, please turn on my flashlight.
Yeah.
Can you please touch me? Can you scratch me? I mean, I had a case that that was referred to me from Nikki's team probably about 6 months ago. It was actually a demonic case. And I do honestly think that they had a demonic encounter going on at their home. But what was sad was that they honestly did not want help with their demonic problem. They wanted somebody to make them famous because they had a problem. So I can't tell how much of what they had going on was demonic and how much of it was what they knew people should expect from the demonic.
Yeah, because there was a couple of aspects to it where it was clearly to where they were, I don't want to say making it up, but they were making it worse. They were coming up with what they thought was evidence, which it wasn't. There was a couple of photographs with like scratches and stuff like that, and you can tell it was made by a person just scratching themselves over and over and over and over again because it had the rash that went with it. Stuff like that. And
another thing people don't realize, and I'm not gonna say exactly what it is, but there is actually a pattern that is involved in the way people are scratched for demonic cases. Yeah. And unfortunately, or fortunately, I guess, most people don't know what that is.
Yeah.
So when they're trying to say that they've been scratched and they're showing you that they've got like 4 scratches straight across their chest, that's not the typical scratch pattern for a demonic.
Yeah, usually it's 3, the Holy Trinity. I mean, usually marks and 3.
Right.
And then there's
But even like signs of force like scratching, bruising, things like that, it may not be demonic. And like you said, or even scratches like a 4 or whatever like that, it may not be demonic. It may be a way that a spirit is trying to communicate, by trying to reach out and touch us or in whatever way embrace us. But it's just how it manifests on our body, by maybe a bruise or a scratch. It doesn't mean that they're trying to attack us or anything like that.
If I were to die and I don't immediately go to heaven or I don't get stuck in purgatory and I have the possibility that I can come down here to earth, I mean, I think that I would try to communicate with some of the people I know in the paranormal field. I would try to talk to you. I would try to talk to Nikki. I'd go to some of the psychics I know and see if they can hear me. But if I'm trying to tap you on the shoulder, I can't guarantee, especially in my new spirit body, that my tapping you on the shoulder isn't going to scratch you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how my spirit energy interacts with your physical being.
Right.
How do we know that perhaps when they're just touching us, it's not causing these burns and these scratches?
Yeah.
Because maybe they don't really mean to do it. They're just trying to say, hey, I'm here. I mean, I could be sitting there going, hey, Bob, it's me. And you'll be, oh, my God, I've been scratched by a demon.
Right.
Get out. But
no, Bob would probably go, dang it, Rob. I know that was you.
Now, when I just received a signed copy here of the Catholic Demonologist Handbook. So I'm working with Kenneth Deal on demonology. And at first when I read I'm going to tell you what he wrote here on the front of the book. And it's actually, it's what he wrote to me, and when I first read it, it seemed ominous, like he was trying to warn me off from even trying to get into demonology. But I think there's probably more truth to this warning than you would expect. What it says is, Rob, we always must remember there is no turning back once you have begun. The demonic is patient, never forgets. As soon as protection and binding prayers are stopped, hardships can hit. Pray, pray, pray. God bless. Now, when I first read that, Nikki's like, I don't know if I want you to do this. I mean, are demons going to be chasing you down and trying to kill you? And I mean, and I don't think that was the idea behind what he was trying to say so much as, just warning us about what can happen. But there's not any warnings out there for the people who are watching ghost hunters that there could be something dangerous. I mean, what do they see on there? The worst thing they ever really see is that sheets might get pulled off a bed, or they might hear a name, or something might say, get out.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't really, you don't really see, I don't think I've ever seen any, demonic cases on ghost hunters or anything like that.
No, never.
Well, and which is good, because ghost hunters, they'll do their investigation, they'll gather their evidence, and that's all they do. They don't try to rid of any of the activity or try to,
Right.
They basically, here you go. That's what we got.
This is what we got. Yeah, exactly. Here's what we got. See ya. And of course, people can't really use paranormal state either. Yes, paranormal state would sit there and everything's a demon, but the problem is that paranormal state has been, that show and their evidence and everything has been debunked 10 times over. Yeah. And so people really can't use that as a basis or even a learning tool, to what happens, if they go into this haunting and it's actually demonic. You can't go there either. So really there is nothing for people who think, hey, I can watch a show, I can be a ghost hunter. There's nothing really substantially out there to warn them about what can really happen. And of course it doesn't help that we have, Zach Bagan out there, provoking everything.
Sure. What's really funny about it? If you have a show on like Jackass, before Jackass comes on, they say, don't go out there and be a complete idiot and
don't do this.
And ride a golf cart down a hill at 100 miles an hour without the brakes and run it into a wall and see if you survive.
Right. Don't do this.
Because, honestly, you would think people would be smart enough not to try to do these things that are on Jackass. But they do them. But they still get that warning. But before ghost hunters, they never say... trying to interact with spirits without proper training can be dangerous. Do not try this at home.
Exactly. There should be a disclaimer, something like that.
Well, and the thing with ghost hunting, it's become kind of that, American pastime now. It's like that hobby, like collecting comics and coins. Oh, yeah. It's ghost hunting. It's just, and really, it can be dangerous, man. It really can, and people just don't know the true dangers. Just always know that, with negative people, there comes negative energy, and people have got to understand the laws of energy and the laws of attraction and things of such, they definitely have to go into the research behind what can cause these things, and they got to know their religion. They've got to know the science behind, the tools that they use, and they often don't. They create more chaos and craziness because of their misunderstandings. I think it's crazy. It's gotten out of hand.
Oh, it has definitely gotten way, way out of hand. There's no doubt about that.
And when you just mentioned the comic book thing, I know you're in the chat room. I don't know if you're looking at it or not, but there was a comment in the chat room that was made by a user that says that they recently saw a comic book store that was selling ghost hunting tools. So, your analogy of saying it's the new comic.
The paranormal, man, comics and paranormal, hand in hand, right?
When we first started doing WPARanormal Talk Radio,
it was a comic book store.
We went to the comic book store to promote it.
Remember? Yeah, well, geeks in the paranormal, we're all geeks, man,
You know what? You guys are talking about this, and it is bringing back the movie Lost Boys. How with Corey Feldman was running a comic book store, but they advertised that, in their off hours at night, they were vampire hunters and stuff like that. And it just brings me back to thinking about that movie, that you're selling the ghost hunting equipment, at the comic book store.
I like to think Bob and I are more closely related to Big Bang Theory, brilliant geniuses by day and then ghost hunters at night.
Although, I'm up here, you mentioned, asked if I was by computer. I'm not. I'm just up here on the phone in my room wearing my paranormal thong, just kind of laying on my bed here looking all sexy.
Is it one of the originals?
In the mirror. Oh, yeah.
Is it one of the original?
Ghost hunters do it in the dark, man, right?
Right.
And I remember.
Gotta take a picture.
Oh, excuse me. I don't know if you heard that. I just passed some gas. A little bit of ectoplasm in the air.
There are people out there that would. I mean, yeah, you're joking and whatever, but there's people out there that say they had. I mean, there's a joke. I think it was on Saturday Night Live about it, but I actually have seen somebody legitimately use on a temperature change on a FLIR that came near someone's rear end and try to say that it was ghostly activity.
Yeah.
I think it was Saturday Night Live that made a joke about it. It had Hugh Laurie on it, from House. But it's the whole thing of not knowing your equipment.
Yeah.
I've heard people literally fart, and blow ass, and claim it was an EVP. That was Howard the Duck. I'm sorry, man.
When I first started analyzing EVP for Nikki's team, she has an investigator, and he is really good.
You measure by certain fart decibels.
I mean, he's got a really good ear.
Bob on my team's got amazing.
But what
hearing.
we found out is there's a problem here. One problem is that yes, he hears the EVP, but he's not aware of the fact that he has a deviated septum that makes a certain sound. Apparently, he's never caught on to the fact that this sound only happens when he's around. So
he has.
But he used to give me EVP and he'd be like, "Listen to this." I'm like, "That's your deviated septum." And then there was another time when they sent me this EVP and they were like, "Oh, there's this awesome EVP." And I'm glad that there was actually a video camera running at the same time, because what had actually happened is there's an investigator on her team that always brings coffee, and he actually had opened up his thermos, and you could hear the air escape, and it was like,
sure, yeah.
We're like, EVP.
And audio equipment can be pretty darn sensitive, man, and that's why it's good to have multiple, recorders and video and things running too, so that way, because if you do get something, it's always like, hey, check the other recorder that's by, that was located by this recorder, or check the camera to see what else it could be.
Yep. And you see, the thing is with some of these new teams, they don't think like that. They do not think like that. They will, go by themselves in a room, and then they'll come out going, dude, I had this awesome experience, and they'll put it down as evidence.
Oh, yeah, well, exactly. And the new big thing is they go around and do these investigations, put everything on YouTube now.
Oh, yeah.
They got their own YouTube channels now, and it's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, have I thought of having our own YouTube channel? Absolutely, but not for the same reasons. What I have always wanted to do, and I've never done it, and it pops in my mind from time to time, is doing these, little documentaries of these urban legends and haunted locations.
It's trying to kind of debunk things, right?
Well, it's the same thing. It's the same thing that we do with our book. Like the first one I was ever going to do, of course, was the Ada Witch. But to delve into the research and just say, you know what, this person definitely is not the Ada Witch, whatever, and give the real research behind it, not just replay the same thing over and over again that you see all over the internet. For that's what I'm thinking. I would love to have a little YouTube channel. Yeah. You know what I mean? Not try to sell it to a major network or anything. Yeah. Just something to go, hey, here's,
Well, remember, Nikki, I mean, it doesn't sell when you debunk something, man.
I know
it only
that.
sells when you say there's a ghost and there's a haunting,
Yep.
And that's where you guys are ballsy, man, because you guys put it out there. This is it, man. We found that this is false, whatever. But here you go. I mean,
here you go. Sorry,
that's what's great about it, because this is it.
Oh yeah.
We've done our research, and so many people don't. They just put it out there, and because it's going to sell, it's romantic, it sounds good and scary, and it's scurry. I'm scared,
Yeah, we're scared.
I'm gotta be scared
I'm all
of the ghost,
scared,
man.
Yeah, people want to be scared. They don't want to know, oh, really?
I know.
Was somebody farted?
Oh, yeah, I know. And another thing, and it's funny how many groups that I have talked to or even met that one of the biggest flaws that they have in their team, and of course I'm sure there were many, but one of the biggest flaws that I found that they have in their team is where they have everybody in their team on their own analyze the research, analyze the evidence. I shouldn't say research, analyze the evidence that they got from an investigation. They're allowed to do their own analyzing, and then they will just give everything to the founder and say, okay, here's what we found. We have this EVP, that EVP, this and this and this and this and this. And then the founder will sit there and put it out as evidence. I'm like, what? For one thing, there's nobody double checking that person. If the founder just puts it out, or the president or whoever, the leader just puts it out as evidence, they should be double checking that before putting it out as evidence.
Right. Now,
I mean, that person could be like the deviated septum or the farting or whatever. And if you give that to the leader and say, this is evidence, and the leader puts it out as evidence, hello, you just got a whole bunch of ghost farts,
All right. Yeah. But here's the thing, though. Let's kind of get ourselves back onto the original discussion here. I mean,
well, it kind of all ties in.
I know.
Hello? Are you there?
That was the flush heard around the world.
I was flushing some demons, some wicked spirits down there, man. It's all good. No, but yeah, I'm with you, Rob. We'll get back to the dangers, right, of investigating.
The dangers of, and I do want to discuss. We've already discussed some of the part of the dangers. We do have the danger that we are going into these clients' homes, and excuse me, and when we're going to these clients' homes, we're saying, "Hey, ghost, please come here and be stronger. Do these things you've never done before. We're here to listen to you." And what happens if these spirits, now they're ready to talk, they're ready to communicate, and nobody's there to hear them? You've just taken this minor haunting and you can make it 10 times worse because of the fact that you've now encouraged it to communicate. You've shown it that that it's there, and now all these ghosts want to do is talk.
Well, it's just not that. Just that, the other
that's
thing.
If you're lucky enough that it wasn't a negative spirit in the first place.
Well, my first, when you're saying that is completely true. But another thing that popped in my head when you were saying that is not only have you asked these entities to come in and communicate, if let's say an entity does manage to present itself physically, or is able to physically move something it never has before. All right, not only did you ask it to come in to communicate, it just makes me wonder, did you also now just teach it what it can do? And go, wow, I can, if I can do this, draw in enough energy, I can move this. Fantastic. I'm going to start doing this. Especially in negative energy.
Yep.
And then there's the other real risk you have there. What if, and I've ran into this on a few occasions in minor ways, but, you have teams out there, all they've ever done is see it on TV. They really don't have a clue what's going on. They themselves, unfortunately, most of the people that I know that are in the paranormal, a lot of them have psychological issues of their own. I'm not saying that they're crazy and they're making up the ghost, but maybe they're not completely psychologically stable. They may. I was investigating when I was a severe alcoholic. I would make the only time I'd be sober would be to ghost hunt. Pretty much, that would be it. There's people out there. There's people out there who are so on the edge of sanity as it is, and then they're going out into these. They're
bringing their personal demons in to somebody's home, and they're creating a magnet.
Absolutely,
for more negative activity and energy, and that's why you definitely, I mean, these people, they don't realize it, and it's like you've got to be of sound mind and of sound stature to take on a case. Because there's so many roles that you take on when you do that. You become a counselor, an investigator, detective, a counselor, you become a social worker. And then it's up to you, once you find whatever or determine what type of haunting is going on, you got to figure out how to rid of this activity or find, the right people or tools to get rid of the activity. There's so many things that are involved, so many steps, and you've got to be of sound stature, and you can't, take on any of your personal issues and be in a bad mood, or, if you're mentally unsound, you need to be structurally sound. I agree with you 100%, and a lot of people don't realize that. They'll go and, I don't know how many people on the team, just popped a few Vicodin, I'm good, took a bunch of Xanax, man, I'm ready to, or whatever, and it's.
Yeah, so what I was trying to say about it, and I know Nikki has something else she wants to say.
I might have went off the whole thing, didn't I?
Oh, no, you didn't.
You did good.
I thought you were moving in the right direction.
No. You moved it in the perfect direction.
But what I was getting at, and exactly kind of what you were saying as well, when I was talking about the people that are out there that have these mental problems, one thing that I actually just saw a study done that's saying that as much as 45% of people running ghost hunting teams suffer from psychological problems, and the most common psychological problem is actually severe narcissism, thinking that you are the absolute king of the world. And I think, honestly, that it is that narcissism that is like the only thing that divides the people out there that are starting these new pop-up teams and the people out there that are being the clients that think that that everything's paranormal.
Well, they want to be a leader. They got their own gang. I want to be a leader of a club. It's the way they feel. The whole club thing. I'm going to start my own club, and I'm going to have these guys all members, and they'll bow down to me. And there's definitely some of that. Totally. And a lot of these members, like you say, man, they do have, a lot of them have medical issues. A lot of them don't work because they've got medical issues, and they take medications and things like that can alter their abilities. And I've had to go through, I don't know how many team members that have had these medical issues, and they've been on all kinds of narcotics and different medications, and it's like, really, I'm sorry, but, we just, it's hard to say and hard to tell them, it's not what we need for our team, but, you really have to be a sound mind.
Absolutely.
I get the clients that are watching these TV shows, and they've got their mental problems, and their mental problems are making them want to have a haunting. And then you have the people who have the mental problems on the opposite end.
They feed.
That sit there and go, oh my God, if those losers can run a show and be on TV, well then I can do it because I am far superior to them. I've done this, that, and the other thing, so I can do it better than they can. And who cares that I've never had any training because I can do anything. I am the master of everything. And
what's funny? One of the things I was going to say is when you look at a team and team as a dynamic, I think the person that ends up being the biggest liability on a team is the narcissist. I really, really do. And if the narcissist ends up being a leader, I think that's just even worse. Because how I look at it, if you have somebody on your team who is a narcissist, it doesn't matter what you come up with. It doesn't matter what you're going to say. Whatever they think, is going to be the right thing. Always. Whatever they say was evidence, whatever they want is evidence. It's always going to be them. And I think that is the biggest liability to a team, is to have somebody who wants this power trip and, stuff like that. And it's even worse if you find somebody who's a narcissist and then they turn around and it's quite obvious, regardless of what they say, it's quite obvious what they really want is to be the next Jane Grant.
And there's some people out there that will readily admit that even. I mean, most people out there, when they're talking about their teams or whatever, they'll say, I'm not doing this to become famous. I'm doing this for the love. Everyone has the words down of what you should say for why you're doing it. Sure. But there's some people out there that are like, yeah, I'm doing this to be famous.
You know what? And I almost give them more credibility than the people who are trying to say all the right things. Exactly, because if somebody is going to come out and say, you know what, I'm doing this because I want my own television show.
Yeah,
you know what? I like those people better because they're being direct and they're being truthful about their intentions. It's the people that I'm out there to help and I just want to help people and I don't want to be famous. And then turn around and next week they have 3 interviews.
They're stabbing your back, because they, want this or that. Or,
yes. Oh my God. Yeah. Let's not even get into the backstabbing in the paranormal world.
And we've all seen that, and we've all had members and whatever that have tried, used us as a crutch for their own fame.
Use us as a stepping stone.
We've had people say, they're in it only because they want to make a buck. They want to make a buck, and that's why they do it. It's not because they're passionate about it or want to help or, they want to make money. And,
absolutely.
And the paranormal thing is a big seller right now, and it's your opportunity to make money. And it's like, I'm sorry, well, you're not a good candidate for our team, or whatever, get the, it's just too bad. It really is.
And that's why I said I would prefer the direct people that just come up and say, look, I do want to have my own television show. That's why I'm doing this.
Yes,
well,
exactly.
Thank you for being truthful. Those are the people, even though they're getting into it.
It still seems like they're in it for the wrong reasons.
They're in it for the wrong reasons, but they're less likely to be the backstabbers because they've told you right off the bat, this is what I want.
That's true. But you know what? But when there's fame involved and an opportunity, there's going to be backstabbing no matter what.
I know.
Yeah, well,
and it happens all too often in this field.
It does, and that's what's sad. It has gotten to that point where it's a very backstabbing world.
Gang war, it's like treasure hunting.
I know.
We're sitting here, we always try to take our break at the top of the hour, mainly because the National Association of News Broadcasters say we have to.
Says we have to.
So we're going to be taking a break. Are you going to be able to stay with us for a little bit longer, Bob? Or?
For just a little bit longer, I think, and then I probably should get off. But yeah, definitely.
All right, well, we're going to take about a 5-minute break, and then I think there's something that was brought up in the chat room that is actually one of the things that I was hoping to discuss. Erin in there says that the reason that she's in the chat room was because she ran across a team like that, and they came in, found out they were haunted, left with no offer of help. And that's one of the things that I wanted to discuss, and that's what we're going to get into right off the bat when we come back from this break. It's only going to be a 4-minute break, so we'll keep it short, get our station identification out of the way, and get Bob back to his family there. So.
Yeah.
You guys enjoy this brief break. We have a couple parody commercials in there that kind of tie into what we're talking about, so we'll see you guys back here in just about 4 minutes.
Remember when you ran away and I got on my knees and begged you not to leave because I'd go berserk? Well, you left me anyhow, and then the days got worse and worse, and now you see I've gone completely out of my mind. They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, yee-ha. To the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time. And I'll be happy to see those nice young men in their clean white coats. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. You thought it was a joke, and so you laughed when I had said that losing you would make me flip my lid, right? I know you laughed. I heard you laughed. You laughed and laughed and laughed, and then you left. But now you know I'm utterly mad. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha. To the happy home with trees and flowers and chirping birds and basket weavers who sit and smile and twiddle their thumbs and toes. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. I cooked your food, I cleaned your house, and this is how you pay me back for all my kind, unselfish, loving deeds? Huh? Well, you just wait, they'll find you yet, and when they do, they'll put you in the ASPCA, you mangy butt. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-ha-ha. To the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time. And I'll be happy to see those nice young men in their clean white coats. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. To the happy home with trees and flowers and chirping birds and basket weavers who sit and smile and twiddle their thumbs and toes. And they're coming to take me away, ha-ha. to the funny farm where life is beautiful all the time.
And I'll be happy to see those nice young men in their clean white coats. And they're coming to take me away. Ha ha!
To the happy home with trees and flowers and chirping birds
and basket weavers who sit and smile and twiddle their thumbs and toes. And they're coming to take me away.
Tonight's sponsor, Sally Brown Sea Salt. Now available in a 5-gallon bucket. Things that go bump in the night? No problem. Sprinkle some Sally Brown Sea Salt around your house and be rid of those pesky poltergeists. With Sally Brown Sea Salt, now you can be the Ghostbuster. Now on to our show.
Hey, this is Nikki and Rob from WPARanormal Talk Radio. Do you love ghost stories and interesting history? Then we have an event for you.
Join the authors of Paranormal Michigan book series for a tour of Kalamazoo unlike any other. We'll take you on an amazing ghost tour of the Kalamazoo's most haunted locations, while sprinkling in stories of rowdy saloons and seemingly endless brothels.
The Haunted History of Kalamazoo tour is the only tour based on the local best-selling book, Haunted History of Kalamazoo.
Visit the tour's website at hauntedkalamazootours.com for rates, times, and to reserve your spot today.
Today's sponsor, Ghost Goggles. Now you can become the psychic medium when you do your next ghost hunt. Put on Ghost Goggles, and suddenly, as if by magic, you too can see dead people. Now on to our show. Here is Stephen LeChamp.
This network may contain controversial topics. The views and opinions expressed on the Paraspeak Radio Network are those of the hosts, guests, and callers, and are not necessarily those of this station, its management, or other network hosts or advertisers.
You are listening to WPAR Digital Broadcasting, home of the Paraspeak Radio Network. All right, everyone, thank you for staying tuned. We have on the phone still the one and only Bob Penny from I Want to Believe Radio, and of course the Michigan Night Stalkers. We're sitting here.
Man, I've Googled myself, and I think there's probably I came across 20,000 of Bob Penny. So I'm not.
That's why I said that you. That's why I specified the only Bob Penny.
I think I'm the only paranormal Bob Penny. So if that means anything.
Well, if you Google my name, I guess I have same name as a real estate agent, a tennis player, and a porn star.
The porn star.
Yeah, the porn star. I'm like, oh, thanks. Yeah, and if you go on to IMDb, Internet Movie Database, and you put Nicole Bray, it comes up with two of them. It comes up with me in Garden Island, and then it comes up with this other Nicole Bray in a porn movie. Yeah.
Yeah, there's another Bob Penny that's a movie star too. I guess he's like a supporting actor. Yeah. Kind of these little bit characters, but he's an older guy.
Yeah, and of course I do not feel like paying the $150 to upgrade my IMDb account. Just so I could put my picture on there, so people don't think that I'm the one that did the porn movie. So
crazy, man.
I think it's crazy. I have to pay $150 for that.
I know, man. Right? What the heck?
So, what I want to do before you get off the phone here, because I know you said you have to be with us just a short period of time here. We do have in the chat room the comment that was made by Erin saying that she had a team come in that said the place is haunted and then left with no offer of help. And I think that is becoming more and more a problem these days. I think that part of the problem with that is because these teams, they see it on TV, they think they know what they're doing, and then they take on clients. I mean, you and I were joking around about the fact that we started doing ghost hunting to get girls or whatever, back in the day. But we didn't start out by taking clients. Then we started doing the urban exploring thing. We weren't taking clients.
No.
I mean, we learned what we were doing before we ever tried to have a client.
Baby steps.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And now there are so many teams out there that are established that do know what they're doing that you could mentor with. I mean, even teams that say they're not taking members, if you try hard enough and you sell yourself well enough, they may allow you to mentor. I mean, but if someone were to send me an email that said, I would like you to mentor me, rather than I want to join your ghost hunting team.
Oh my God!
I hate to tell you that keyword. I'd be like, oh, you want to learn?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be great. There's so many people out there now that know what they're doing that you could find somebody that will teach you. I think everybody out there needs to start out following before they learn how to lead. I mean, you have to know what you're doing before you can.
Then again, Rob, too, there's the egos, too. People just don't, they just automatically, hey, I am a demonologist. I am a professional ghost hunter, even though they just started,
I know. I know.
Go, and I'm an official demonologist, Or I've actually seen these new teams popping up, and it offers, demon removal service. And, I'm like, really? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I guess that's kind of the opposite end of it. There's a team in the Kalamazoo area. It's not one I've ran into.
Night Stalkers.
No, it's not your team.
No, it's not your team.
It's not even another one of the really well-known ones there in Kalamazoo. But we came across this one when we were doing an investigation of a house in Kalamazoo. That what this team does is they have a couple psychics on their team, and they go in and they go and do their investigation with their psychics, and they inevitably find a problem.
Always.
And then they offer for a small fee of $100 that they'll go through and they'll remove these negative entities for you.
Yep.
So
is there a guarantee behind that?
I don't know if they have a guarantee by that, but it just so happens that the house that they investigated, we were able to investigate the very next weekend, and we were allowed the entire weekend in the house. And after the homeowner had told us who was the team coming in to begin with, started researching them. And I told the homeowner, I said, just want to give you a warning. Here is a couple of red flags based on what they have said on their website. And I said, I had asked the homeowner if she had ever felt anything negative in her house. Has there been anything that she would have deemed negative? And she goes, absolutely not. She goes, absolutely not. I've never felt threatened. None of the people who have lived in the house have ever felt threatened. It's just, knocking noises and walking up and down the stairs and, weird things turning on and off, stuff like that. No one's ever felt threatened. Well, and then I told her, I said, well, what you need to do is watch out when this team comes in and see if after they get done analyzing all their evidence, if they say you have a negative energy that's in the house. I said, and then what they're going to do is they're going to offer to clean out this negative energy for you. Come back again and clean out this negative energy.
So that's exactly what I'm talking about. There's people out there that leave them hanging, and there's people that offer to clean it with no real experience in how to do it. And you got to watch out for both of them. Mm-hmm. But here's something I was discussing with Nikki earlier today, Bob, and since you're still on the phone here, I want to get your opinion. I think, honestly, that those of us that have been in the field for a while, I mean, yes, it seems like a lot of us are getting burned out and we're leaving. And I can't say that I blame people that are doing that, but if you're going to stick with it, people that are going to stay with it, I think we really need to change the investigative protocols. I really do. And I didn't really think this until pretty recently when I started working with Ken. I did not see the problems with our current investigative protocols. And I think what Aaron's talking about here is kind of a result of our current investigative protocols. Our protocol pretty much is client says their house is haunted. So rather than, take their word for it, their house is haunted and try to help them with the haunting, we say, well, let's go find out if we think your house is haunted as well. And this is the adventure part. And this is where the adventure seekers come in. And, they do the adventure of the ghost hunt and gathering the evidence and all that stuff. And then at that point, they've got their evidence. They've had their adventure. They give a great presentation. People are doing some of the most amazing presentations nowadays. They give this great presentation that says, this is why your place is haunted.
Yep.
And then they leave them. That's it. That's all they ever hear from them. I think we really need to have part of our investigative protocol. I think part of what we have to have is I think every team should have somebody who has been trained in dealing with helping these entities move on. And I don't necessarily mean that everyone should have a psychic. I'm not anti-psychic. I'm not pro-psychic. I mean, I've worked with some great psychics out there, but I don't think that a psychic is the way that all these things should be dealt with.
Right.
A lot of teams, if they're going to try to get rid of the entity, they're going to bring in the main thing to do now seems to be that they're either going to bring in their psychic, and their psychic's going to help them move into the light and pass and cross over, or they bring in somebody who practices one of the pagan arts and they try to bind the spirit and get it out. These seem to be the two main things that are being done. And I think we need to have people that are trained to deal with different kinds of spirits. Not necessarily the psychics. I never realized exactly. Until pretty recently, I didn't realize that what we are doing is giving them power, just like what we've been talking about in the first half of the show. But,
well, you got to look at, everyone has a different religion. There's different religions. There's not just one way, you've got to be mindful of that. You may walk into a home where a Jewish ghost resides, or, you've got to handle these things differently, or may walk into an Islamic ghost or a Catholic ghost. You're going to, there's different ways to handle these, and that's a great call, because, so many people just rely on the psychic to help them.
Another thing
that's never a guarantee, man. You've got to know different protocols.
Another thing that was brought up by a couple of the demonologists that have been on Demonology Today, and some of the discussions they've had, they were talking about the fact that when it gets bad enough that they call in the demonologist, it's normally because they've had other people in, they've had the ghost hunting teams in, they've had people try to help them, and it didn't work. But what they were saying, most of the people that have been on the show, when they're asking, what do people say when you say that you're going to take a Catholic approach to get rid of the ghost? They're saying overall that generally the client really doesn't care how you're going to get rid of it. If you say, I'm a Catholic and I'm going to use the tried and true methods that the Catholic Church has used to deal with the spirit, and we're going to get rid of it for you, they're saying they really find that the people don't really care what their religion is, because at the point that they're dealing with demonic oppression, their religion is it's gone. Their power of faith is gone.
Right, but what you're saying is we need to change the protocols of teams that are going in to help these clients, so it doesn't get it doesn't get to the demonic phase.
Right, and what Kenneth says is he says that he's big on saying he's not a ghost hunter. He's actually got an analogy that I really do like in his Demonologist Handbook on the difference between a demonologist and a ghost hunter. And he put it in very layman's terms. And he said, if you think of it like a computer, he said, if you were to call a ghost hunter to investigate your computer issue, what they're going to do is they're going to turn your computer on and off and wait until they can prove that there actually is a problem with your computer.
Yeah.
They're going to write down the code that happened on the computer, and they might take a video of the computer crashing, and they're going to prove that, yes, that computer really is broken. And he said the difference between that and a demonologist is the demonologist will take your word for it that your computer's broken, so they skip the investigation part. They determine that you yourself are not crazy and imagined that it was broken by doing an interview with the client, and then they fix the computer.
Yeah.
And he said that the difference is that, and it sounds, when you put it that way, it sounds kind of stupid. Why would you call somebody to come in and confirm that your computer is really broken? You already knew it was broken. So why is it that people, generally speaking, we're calling people in to confirm that the house really is haunted? I guess there's a point to it. I think even if I finish this demonology thing, according to what Kenneth was saying, once he's done mentoring me and worked with me for a while, then he said that I'll be one of the few people that he's worked with that will have the level of training that he would actually consider a demonologist. But even when I reach that level, I think I'll still do the investigations. But
well, that's it. Like I said, everything's pointing to demons, and I still think demonic cases are very rare. You still got, most cases are just your little kind of, a lot of cases are just residual activity, residual energy.
Right.
Or things that, the demonic cases, I think they're out there, but they're very, few and far between still.
Yeah, but another thing that's important to keep in mind with demonology, though, is that demonologists don't only deal with demons. I mean, they don't just say that that if it's a demon, I can deal with it. If it's a ghost, I can't. I mean, they're still able to go through there and say, you know what, you have this ghost that's trapped in your house and you want rid of it, so we'll ask God to help us get rid of the ghost. And assuming that people are right and God has the power that we assume he does, then whether it be a ghost or be a demon, if you say, in the name of Jesus Christ, get out of this house, I mean, it would seem to me that Jesus would have the power to kick a ghost out or a demon out.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's one of the things that Ken really tries to stress, is that most of the cases that you get aren't going to be demonic cases. But we still should be able to, we should still have someone that's actually trained in how to get rid of them. And I mean, I don't care, you don't have to be a Catholic or a Christian. And if you are trained in the Islamic faith, or you're properly trained in the faith of any religion, I mean, as long as you're not tramping on the homeowner's beliefs, within reason. I mean, I wouldn't call in a Satanist to deal with a haunting.
No. But you need to be aware of the religions, of the different religious aspects.
I'm not going to say that it's wrong if you want to call in a rabbi to deal with a haunting. By all means,
case or something.
Call it in.
Yeah,
but I think every team should have somebody who is properly trained. Not just somebody who. And I always tread lightly on this because I don't want to hurt anyone out there's feelings when I say this. But when you come down to a psychic, and I do know some really good ones, but when you come down to a psychic, you have their word that they know what they're doing. I mean,
all you have is their word. That is it.
It's not like they went to psychic school and learned how to be a psychic, and in the psychic school they told them how to cross a spirit over. Now, you have the fact that they know that they have seen spirits, and they know that they've helped these spirits cross over. So they taught themselves how to help a spirit cross over. But I mean, there are people who've worked with others that might have been taught how to do it, and those people, more power to them. But a lot of these psychics that I've worked with, that's really all they've ever done is, they've got their own word that they know what they're doing. And I can't say they do or they don't, but
yeah, but see, the thing is
I want my basis on something. I want a level of education. And if you want to have a psychic to help get rid of the spirits, then you know what? That is a step ahead of what everyone else out there seems to have.
Yeah.
Most of these teams have absolutely nothing.
No, and that's it. And that's why, it's important to network, to know the right people to turn to, if you or your team members can't, help get rid of the activity or whatnot, or, at least find people that might be able to help you or can do so. In a lot of cases, it's just empowering the homeowners. And most of the time, they can, get rid of it. And a lot of times if it's just negative energy, they can overpower some of that with just some, positiveness, like just changing their demeanor, getting counseling themselves, cleaning up their home, different things can. So there's, once you identify the type of activity, then you definitely find a cleanup crew, just don't be an open-ended team, we just go in there, okay, that's it, we're going to leave you hanging,
You know what I find?
Definitely need people to turn to.
One thing I find kind of ironic in a way is that most of the teams out there that think that they have a demon, I mean, most of the homes out there where someone thinks they have a demon, it's not really demonic. But then the things where people do run into demonic oppression, the people that are oppressed by demons don't even realize that they are. There was, when we first interviewed Kenneth Deal on our show earlier this year, I believe it was, he was talking about the warning signs of demonic oppression. And when he's talking
they sound like
about
a normal haunting, basically
just
a little,
signs,
because they start out small and they get big.
Right.
And he's talking about the warning signs. He's like, your personal life starts going out the door. This thing happens. This thing happens. This thing happens. This thing happens. And I'm like, Ken, Nikki and I had such and such happen. What do you think? And he's like, yeah, those are the warning signs of demonic oppression.
Yeah.
But we never assumed we had a demon. So is it possible?
Back then. Back then. But everything was getting bad in the South.
It was getting bad. It was and what you have to think of is, I'm sure everyone at some point has at least studied mythology in school. Say you haven't studied religion, you probably have studied mythology.
Well, yeah, and most schools have it as an elective, right.
In mythology, they have a class of creatures known as the Furies. Mm-hmm. And the Furies would actually be the most common form of demon that we encounter here on Earth. And what the Furies would do is they would take whatever weakness you had and they would multiply it. Mm-hmm. So say you were a paranoid person, you're always afraid someone's going to follow you, the Furies would get in your head and they would continue to make you think that people are following you. So say you're a paranoid person, you think someone's cheating on you, they're going to get in your head and they're going to tell you over and over you're being cheated on.
Right.
They're cheating on you. See, this is proof, this is proof, this is proof. And then it's just going to take away your ability to handle it properly. Actual demonic cases, the markers of them are more psychological than anything else.
Right.
And the cases that people are out there saying are demonic are like the poltergeist cases. Mm-hmm. And
yep.
And the angry human cases.
Yeah.
So I think it's
important to differentiate between them.
People should be able to know the difference. And
exactly.
Unfortunately, if you don't have somebody teaching you that knows what they're doing, you're just guessing. And that's what I'm talking about, where I think we really need, people like you and I, we've been doing this for so long. We've had our radio shows for
over 20 years. I've been doing it, man. 21
part
years,
of what we've, if you think about it, you and I doing our shows, part of what we've done was the basis for how ghost hunting is done now. We went out there and we said this is how it's done. I'm not saying that from a narcissist point of view. I'm just saying, when we were pioneers in the actual leading end of how ghost hunting got so big. So I think if we were out there and we were one of the first people that said you should do it blah, blah, blah way, and now we know it's wrong, we should be equally vocal saying we need to change the protocol.
I think a lot has changed, and a lot has changed since, we always say it, Ghost Hunters debuted,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of things, because you go back to before the media, and things were dealt more on the basis that we're kind of talking about here, man. Things were dealt with more from a religious aspect, more so than a, drive-by investigation, basis like Ghost Hunters. Back then it wasn't for entertainment. We're actually trying to figure out the psychological aspects of the haunting, what could be creating it, what are some of the religious aspects, dealing with some of that. And now it's just focused on the entertainment aspect, it's all about the fireworks, man, the flash and bangs.
Yep. No, I agree. It is completely changed over. And unfortunately, I really don't know, in my opinion, if in the next couple of years, if it's going to get better or worse.
And another thing that I do think is a problem, and it is getting fed a lot by these paranormal shows, is that people are accepting whatever they do on the paranormal shows as the way to do it.
Yes.
Well, exactly.
The K2 is the most faulty EMF detector that has ever been created. It honestly is. It accepts more kinds of interference than any other EMF detector on the market.
Yes. And
so the reason that people use the K2 for EVP sessions is because it can be manipulated so easily.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Manipulation, yeah.
You can do, with the K2 meter, if you're trying for evidence, you're trying to be able to prove that a place is haunted, if you have the right two-way radio in the next room, and you can sit there and listen, you can trigger the K2.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
So you can be like...
a cell phone can easily trigger it.
Oh, yeah, we've done...
You can trigger it with a cell phone.
Yep.
You can trigger it so many ways. And what you have to realize with the K2 meter, and as I said, it is the one that is most open to that. If you set your K2 meter next to your tri-field meter, the tri-field does not react the same way that the K2 does.
Exactly.
And that's because the K2 doesn't work for that. It was actually made
even the old
for
Gauss meter, man. The Dr. Gauss meters, too, man.
Yeah.
Aren't as sensitive.
Oh, my God. Yeah, I would rather have one of the old Dr. Gauss meters than I would a K2.
Nope. But K2 was, it was introduced on Ghost Hunters. It was before you had the light, that would light up, and it was just part of the,
Yep, and that's
shock
the thing.
and awe, and it was a marketing. A lot of this stuff is marketing ploys, man. A lot of these gimmicks and, these little things that they, these little inventions for paranormal investigating.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there are some good inventions that have came out.
Well,
and then there's some
great
that are
ones,
terrible.
but it's just...
And some are absolutely horrible. But I think...
Exactly, man.
But I think the thing is that if somebody came up with a K2 meter back before Ghost Hunters, we would have studied it, we would have researched it, we would have been able to figure out on our own how defective this thing actually can be, because it was made so incredibly sensitive that no matter what we used in the next room, it would trigger it off. I mean, we would be thinking logically with this.
Well, it was actually designed for analyzing problems with electric instruments.
Yeah, well,
like electric guitars and keyboards. So it was supposed to find minor leaks actually in frequencies that the other detectors don't detect.
Right.
It was supposed to be super sensitive so they could find out what the problem is.
Yeah, but what I am saying is back when, before Ghost Hunters, we would have sat there and figured out how to use this and researched it. And
would have realized it doesn't
and
work.
Experimented with it. And went, you know what? This thing can be set off so easily by our cell phones, by cameras, by anything, that this is not going to be useful. But now it's different, because after Ghost Hunters, and once you see Ghost Hunters use it,
it's the standard tool,
it's the standard tool, and nobody is being logical with the K2 meters. Nobody is sitting here going, wow, this thing really is not the best.
Although you are seeing less of those and more of the Mel meters nowadays.
Yes, I agree with that one. I do agree with that one, but it's like logic has been taken away by these people who want the thrills and the fame.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
That's the sad part.
Well, while we still have you on the phone here, Bob, what is your thought? I mean, do you think that investigators as a whole, I mean, even those of us that have been in the field for a long time, I think as a whole, we're not as critical as we should be. And I do think it has a lot to do with the fact that there's too much data out there. I mean, just like Nikki was saying, we would have never accepted the K2 originally. I mean,
we wouldn't.
We would have sat there and said, okay, well, this thing detects I sat there with the tri-field, and I compared it to the Dr. Gauss meter to make sure I got the same readings on everything. And I sat there even with the stupid little ELF meter, the extremely low frequency meter, the white thing that's got just the 3 dots. I compared that to the tri-field to make sure it was accurate. Now, I did that same thing with a K2 recently, and they don't have the same readings. No,
I mean, definitely. I would use, like 3 different EMF meters when I'm doing a sweep, just to see. And yeah, the K2 is the most sensitive. It's easy to manipulate.
It is.
And to set off. And I usually throw that, any data from the K2s, I wouldn't even use. I would just go off the tri-field or, a Gauss meter. It just,
and back
it's kind of a waste.
The risk of paranormal investigating. I mean, I mentioned it briefly. Nikki and I had what we now think probably was a demonic thing that happened. We can't say it probably was not related to ghost hunting. I know what the actual trigger of the events probably were. It had nothing to do with ghost hunting. But with us having been investigating for over a decade at that point, we didn't see the signs. Now, for somebody who's only seen it on TV and has never really dealt with anything Can you think of how easily they could just start seeing their lives go down the toilet and have no idea that it could be related to the fact that they did tap into something negative? I mean, yes, most cases are not demonic. They're few and far between. They are on the rise, but I mean, you're not likely to come across a demonic haunting. I mean, if you go out and take investigations as a team, you're probably not going to come across a demonic haunting.
My team has never come across a demonic haunting.
But say you do, are you going to be able to recognize it?
Right.
Well, that's the thing. Yeah, how to differentiate.
Yeah, exactly.
What's a normal Casper haunting? Casper the Friendly Ghost haunting, or what's psychokinesis? What's poltergeist activity? Like an adolescent girl, causing some activity. Or what's a demon? I mean, how do you differentiate between all of those different types of hauntings?
There has to be more education on classifying, the different things. You just can't sit there and come up with this is what a residual haunting is. This is what an intelligent haunting is. This is what this haunting is.
And nothing's black and white in this field.
No.
I've actually been reading some new takes on some of the things that we accept as being certain things. I recently read a different take on what a shadow person is. I mean, you and I have always been big on the interdimensional travelers. But I saw another take on it, and very recently, and I think it actually was in the Demonologist Handbook, but I can't say for sure because I'm pretty sure it's where I read it at. But the take was that what a shadow apparition would be the fact that, we typically see the white or the blue ghost. It's your normal light.
Right.
And one theory that I read was that the white or blue ghost is like your good person, your good human haunting. If you're a good person and you come back, you're going to be like
good and black is bad, right?
You'll be like the white spirit. And I mean, Albert Einstein, there's a video that's going around right now. Mm-hmm. There's a video going on around right now talking about Albert Einstein's theory on evil. And the gist of it is, and it is a true story, it's about Albert Einstein. He was in school, and his teacher decided that he was going to prove that God was evil. And he said, this is the proof for why God is evil. And it says, if God is real, then God created everything. And that means that God created evil. And if he created evil, he must be evil. And Einstein's response to that was that he said, no, you're wrong. And he said, is cold real? And the professor says, yes, of course cold is real. Have you never been cold? And he says, no, cold is not real. What you think is cold is actually the lack of heat. So cold is not real. Heat is. So in the absence of heat, you feel cold. And he said, and Einstein says, is dark real? Does dark exist? And the professor said, of course dark exists. And Einstein's response to that is, no, darkness does not exist. Darkness is the absence of light.
Yeah. You get the whole yin and yang theory,
Right. So
positive, negative, you need both to basically essentially for life.
If the darkness is the absence of light, there's an argument out there being made, and it's a pretty darn good argument to be made, that the positive spirits are white or blue depending on how good they are, because it's the amount of how much of the good white light of God, or the light of God, or the light of good, or however you want to look at the source of good being, and that these dark entities aren't necessarily interdimensional travelers, but they're just creatures that lack that light.
Mm-hmm. They're people who lack the light.
And when I'm starting to think about that, that seems probably just as likely, if not more likely, than what I've always thought with the interdimensional travelers. I think that we may have two different classes of shadow apparitions. I think there could be the interdimensional travelers that we're seeing just briefly.
Right. And the thing is, we don't know. We're not 100% on really any of this.
Right.
But the argument,
and then that kind of gets me to, and I know Robbie talked about this too, but I don't know. I recently lost my mother a little over a week ago. And my mom was like your mom too, your second mom. Lovely woman, who deeply will be missed. And I just have this complete place that's just gone. You know, I mean, it's going to be gone forever because she was such a major part and role in my life, and it just sucks. But anyways, I recently lost my mother a little over a week ago, and you know, the thing, I thought a lot about a lot of things, and even when she was sick in the hospital, thought a lot about a lot of things, and you know, I've lost so many people. You know, we have, Rob, you have too, and Nicole, you have, you know, through the years, and I think my sister died back in 2000, and when she died, I really almost got more involved and obsessed with death and what happens when we die. I know, Rob, for you and I, a big thing was when Casey was killed back in like 91. I think it was 1991 when he was hit by a moped and you know, was killed at such a young age. And I know I became obsessed with, you know, knowing, man, what happens when we die, you know, after that point in time. And that's when I had my experiences were around that time. But, you know, losing my mother, you know, and I just thinking, you know, we don't know. We really don't know here in this realm, in this life, what lies beyond this realm. We've got our belief system, you know, and we just hope to God that our belief system is true, you know, I mean, but belief systems, I mean, it's created to make us feel better, you know, it gives us goals, it helps to create order, you know, we're raised to believe certain things, and, you know, and belief systems help us to deal with death. And, you know, I've been, you know, we've been paranormal investigating for years, over 20 years, and, you know, I've been doing, you know, internet talk radio for, you know, since the early 2000s and things, and I've heard a lot of different people and their takes on death and things, but, you know, I just have, you know, just come to think that, you know, we're so obsessed in this life with death, you know, and what happens to us when we die. And, you know, we're all going to know the answer. We're all going to know the answer in the end, you know, when it happens to us, when it's our time. We're all going to know the answers to the whole universe, you know, to what happens to us when we die. You know, what, you know, is there extraterrestrial, other life forces out there, life forms out there? I'm sure one God has created all of life and everything, you know. I'm sure we'll know all of the secrets all to life, to everything, you know. Why be so obsessed with death while we're alive? You know, we're all going to get our answer, you know. The thing is, you know, I've thought, you know, life is so short. You know, I know we get involved in this thing called the paranormal, and in the paranormal field, we get so involved into it, helping people dealing with ghosts and demonic forces, negative forces, dealing with this stuff, you know, and you know, it can become draining as hell. I mean, you know, it really can become draining and beat us up. But, you know, the thing is we're all going to know our answers, and I know I've thought, you know, I've actually thought about just getting out of this field altogether, getting out of radio, you know, talking about it, you know, and focusing on my kids. I got 3 little kids, twins that are 5, and I've got an 8-year-old son.
No, I honestly
focus on their Cub Scouts, their soccer, their baseball, their lives, and become less involved in knowing what lies beyond this realm, because I'm going to get my answer someday. You know, I'm in no race to find out the answer, man. You know, life is too short.
I think anyone who is seriously into the paranormal, we've all had our moments, exactly what you're talking about, where you have to sit back and think, am I giving too much of my time to the paranormal?
Yeah.
And that's it.
I mean, we know somebody who is probably literally addicted to the paranormal. Yeah. I mean, to the point where it is destroying his life.
Yeah.
He is literally 100% addicted to the paranormal.
And he's destroying his family.
And it's tearing him apart. And yeah, you got to make sure. I mean, if it's getting to a point, I mean, as much as I've always loved working with you as a paranormal investigator and stuff, but if it's to a point in your life where you feel that you're not giving enough time to your family, then, you know, you reconsider it. But yeah, we're talking about, and what you were saying, it's draining. That's one of the risks that I'm talking about here with the paranormal, is it can be so draining. It can take too much of your time. There's more to it.
It takes too much of you.
It takes...
It does, and things can, little nasties can follow you home and cause havoc.
Oh, yeah, on top of it.
It's happened to all of us, you know. Yeah, you know, that's the thing, you know, you become almost so obsessed, and there's so many people that are so obsessed with it, but, you know, in people that are put on earth, I think, you know, to handle this and to deal with this, you know, but I just know, thinking, you know, personally, you know, I think just some of us, sometimes we need to stop and smell the roses and stop and live life. You know, you know, I just see so many people. I see them on Facebook. I got friends that are just, everything's paranormal. Every word's paranormal.
Oh my God, yes, every single thing.
This. Honestly, like, oh my God, I never see them post anything about their kids or anything about, you know, their love of life or their kid's baseball game or how, you know, pictures of their kids, always pictures about ghosts or evidence. You know, it's like, come on. You know, and I almost, you know, to the point, think, man, I got to back off and start smelling the roses sometime, you know, and it's like we almost become so into the dead. And, you know, I'm not rushing things, man. You know, I'm going to get my answers someday. And I know I got to take a breath. And I know, Rob, you've been filling in and doing I Want to Believe Radio with Elmer, and I appreciate everything you've done, dude, and are doing.
Yeah.
And
I mean, come back to it when you're ready. I mean, I think that your take, your view, and the things that you have now, you've had your epiphany. I think that those messages are messages that people that have been through what you've been through are probably in a unique position to get that word out. And I mean, if it's taking too much of your time to do the radio all the time, you know, take a break. Come back to it when you're ready. And I mean, but don't be afraid to say exactly what you just said. Don't let it take over your life. I think it's
important that people should know that it can take over their life sometimes, this field. That's why they've really got to know their calling, and they really got to know what they're getting into, because
that's one of those risks that really needs to be looked into. I mean, as I said, we know a guy who is addicted to the paranormal. It has completely took over his life. I know a person who they allowed it to completely destroy every relationship they've ever had because they were that obsessed with knowing what happens in the paranormal.
Yeah.
And that's one of those risks, because we, as you're saying, you know, we will know what's going on at some point. But you're dealing with things that we can't understand, that we can't control. And if your mind is in a place that you're not able to deal with that, you're doing yourself more harm than good to be out there opening yourself up to that.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I know everyone here at Paraspeak wants you back on the air, but I know we want you to heal and recover.
I miss everybody. I do. Yeah. I miss everybody in the network, you know, all the listeners, and miss doing it, you know. But I just had to take a step back, man, you know, with everything in my life, and it's just you just can't put your heart into it, you know, when you're kind of I guess exhausted by it, you know. And
I know you. I've known you for.
Oh yeah, man, since you were a kid, dude.
Known you forever, you know. I mean, when my dad died, you were instrumental in making me not be any more crazy than I am. I mean, I'm not going to say I'm not crazy. I mean, I'm finally properly treated for all my issues, and I mean, you saw me in some of my worst. But I mean, I've known you for a long time, and you're burned out.
We've been through a lot, man. We've been through.
You know, you're not in a point right now. You're at a point right now when you really do need to step back and you know, get your ducks back in a row. And I mean,
I went through the same thing with my dad.
I'll be honest. Yeah. I'll keep telling you to come back to radio, because I think that you should. I really do. And that's not me saying it because I want to have Bob back on the air because Bob's got a great personality and he's going to sell us radio shows. No, I'm saying that because honestly, Bob, that you seem to like naturally be drawn into the radio aspects. I mean, but I do think that once you've had a chance to process everything, I mean, and it takes a long time.
It does. It really does. Because what I was saying, when my dad died, and my dad was part of our team, we did not go on an investigation for like 9 months. I just couldn't do it. And even even that first year, I will be honest, I did it, but I went through the motions. My heart was not in it whatsoever.
If you're to a point where you can't investigate anymore, I mean, I do think that your passion for the paranormal is not really matched by too many people out there. And passions have a tendency to change. I mean, I know that you're in love with your wife, but I bet your passion is a little bit different than it was when you first met her. I know the way I feel about Nikki isn't exactly the same way I felt when I first met her. It changes and it evolves. It evolves and it gets stronger and better and different. And I mean, if right now, I think your passion for the paranormal is never going to be gone. But you know what? You might be past the point in your life where you want to investigate the paranormal.
Well,
I'm kind of right now, I'll be honest. I think I'm to the point where investigating the paranormal, it's going to take a real change in the way that I've been doing it. Yeah. I think that, I do think that I should be in doing the demonology work. And I think that I can't really do that work and do investigating the way I've always done it. And I think with you, your evolved passion, I think that once you've worked through everything, I think that you're going to be able to bring something to I Want to Believe radio. You still want to believe, and you're still going to believe, but I think you're going to be able to offer a viewpoint that most people out there in the paranormal haven't evolved to the point that they can even process. You're not going to sit there and say, oh my God, you had this amazing haunting. Oh, that's so cool. I wish I could go there. I want to see it. I want to see it.
And I know a lot of people get into the paranormal field because they've lost loved ones, because they want to communicate with them, or they want to see the other side. They want to know that they're in a better place or whatever, But, I'm kind of the opposite. Like, I guess, right now, at least how I'm feeling is that, man, why rush things? Life is short.
Oh, yeah.
Why be obsessed with the dead? Live life for the day, live and enjoy life, because we'll all have our answers in the end. And I know, and I'm sure things are going to change and everything, but I guess I'm just calling it like a little breather, man. I'm taking a little breather.
Everybody has to take a breather.
I think it's called the sabbatical, Bob. It's when you take a break from work because...
I'm
going to go and join, a convent somewhere with the monks over in...
No, you would never do that. You would never do that.
No, I mean...
No.
Yeah, I mean, you deserve it. I mean, it's called the sabbatical.
And that's it. And Rob, and that's why we've done this. That's why you and I have, taken our passion for paranormal investigating and have gone to radio to share our knowledge and to learn from other people and to
I've had to take
share it, and that's why our whole, yours and mine and Nikki's, when we started, the Paraspeak Radio Network, that we did that because of our passion, because, we wanted to, learn from other people, to share knowledge and to learn. And that's, and man, that's why we did it, and that's why we do it. And, I guess right now I just,
and the network will be waiting for you when you're ready to come back, man. And it's not going anywhere. You've got the support.
It's only growing, man. So
you've got the support of everybody that's on the network. I mean,
well, I appreciate everyone's support and everything.
I mean, it will be here waiting for you. I mean,
and thanks again for taking over my reins with I Want to Believe, and you and Elmer doing helping Elmer out and and doing that.
Elmer's a little lost without you, but.
Well, I feel bad,
but you know what? I was talking to him, and I mean, this is I wasn't going to say this. I said it's Elmer the other day in a conversation on Facebook, and Elmer was sitting there, and he's like, you know what? He canceled the show last Thursday because the guest canceled, and he's like, you know what? The show's just not the same without Bob, anyways. No offense to you, Rob, whatever. And I was like, and I said, well, no, it's not the same. I mean, Bob's got a personality, and I don't come back from break. I don't come back from break and go, all right, you're listening to I Want to Believe radio. That's the way Bob. I mean, you do that. I don't do that. I don't have that approach. But Elmer was really down on himself because he did take the reins on one of the interviews, and I'll be honest, it's not his strong point. And what I told him is, I said, you know what, Elmer? People do want to hear what you have to say. people like
Elmer is. I mean, he's the man.
People like
dude.
hearing from Elmer. What I said to Elmer was kind of similar to what I just had to say to you. You know what? I don't think Elmer's to the point where he can really anchor a show. I don't think that he has the personality or right now the discipline to anchor a show. But Elmer is one heck of a good co-host. And
dude, he's the man. I mean, he's seriously.
When I listen to your show, he gets everybody. I mean, he knows everybody. He's got a rapport with everybody.
And dude, the man is so knowledgeable on things. I mean, I know he's kind of shy. He's quiet. You know, he's always been that way back from the old WPARanormal days when he used to call, and he's real kind of quiet and kind of shy. He won't do the show, man. I'm like, he's just absorbing all this knowledge, and you know, he's
and that's what I was trying to say to Elmer.
When you get him talking, man, he gets on the soapbox, and it's like, oh my gosh. But Elmer and I guess we're kind of like a married couple, man. You know,
Elmer is great. I mean, he's a great person. I mean, and he's kind of down because one interview didn't go right, but.
Oh my God!
We've all had interviews from hell. You know?
Oh my God! Yes, we have had the suckiest interviews too.
You know, I think that Elmer's gonna realize pretty soon here that whoever he's doing the show with, he's his opinions, and I mean he brings something to the show that really. I mean, he's got his own personality. No one else can bring Elmer's personality, not seriously. I mean, I know some comedians that could probably play Elmer. But, I mean, he's serious. He's a smart guy. I mean, I never realized he was a smart guy.
Oh, yeah, man.
You see, and the thing is I think...
He's really smart. I mean,
I think this is a maturing step for him. I really do. I think this is an evolving step for him as well.
I mean,
he's coming into himself.
Into his own. He's becoming the butterfly.
Yeah.
When we first started WPARanormal, I mean, I was essentially your co-host. I mean, we never said it that way, but...
No, man.
But let's be honest. I mean, I was your co-host. And I evolved from that point to where I can anchor a show now. And
yeah, dude, I've heard you talk more tonight than I think I ever have in the last 5 years.
Yeah. I'm just sitting back here going, okay.
I've evolved to where I can anchor a show now. But I mean, but there was when you and I had our show together. It was the dynamic, and I think what's going to end up happening with I Want to Believe is, I'll be able to fill in until you're ready to come back, because I think you and I are enough alike that Elmer and I don't think Elmer and I wanted to get along. I don't know what it was, but for some reason the two of us did not want to get along. And then, we kind of were kind of forced to. And what do you know?
Man, should we call I Want to Believe Radio, or I Want to Beat Your guys' asses for radio? Because not getting along, man. What the heck? No.
Yeah, so now, but Elmer told me the other day.
I said the A word, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're good.
A donkey. It's like a donkey. It's fine, right?
Yeah.
And technically, I did actually spend a little extra so that we can't get fined for swearing. But there's some of our hosts that probably should not know that.
They will now.
The network is such a great, wonderful family.
We don't want to get to the point where people are on the air going F this and F that.
No.
I mean, there are some paranormal networks out there that's how their shows are. They're like
we're still considered family-oriented shows.
Yeah.
where you can gather the kids around the computer or whatever and listen. But no, the thing is, the network is a wonderful family, dude. And like I said, I just appreciate everything that you have done for filling in with me, and appreciate everything Elmer's done, and you, Nicole, and everything that you guys have done for this network. As far as
it will be here waiting for you, man.
Growing this network, and I just, I just want to apologize for wanting to take a couple steps back.
Oh, no apology is needed. No apology is needed. It's exactly what you need to do. It's exactly what everybody needs.
I quit WPARanormal Talk Radio for about 2 years, and it was when I realized that my mind wasn't where I could do it. I mean, it wasn't necessarily that I quit because I didn't want to be in the paranormal, or even because Nikki wouldn't help me with it. It was more or less, it was because I had something I needed to focus on. I needed to focus on finding sobriety and getting my life back together. And right now, you need to focus on being able to recover from the loss of your mother. I mean, that is a very real trauma that you have to recover from. And
and you know, I was a mommy's boy.
Your whole family are mama's boys.
It's
but with your mom, how can you not be? I mean,
well,
she was
your mom
such a
was
sweetheart.
awesome. Yeah. But I mean, it's not, this is my, personal psychological opinion, whatever, but it's different when your mother passes than when your father passes. Even if you were closer to your father than your mother, with any family dynamic. It is harder when a mother dies. And I think a lot of that is back to when she was pregnant with you.
That maternal bond.
That bond. And that bond can never be there between a father and a son or a father and a daughter. You just cannot have it with the father. It's this special connection that only a mother has with a child. Yeah. And because when my dad died, it was so incredibly hard. But then when my mom died, it was twice as hard. And it wasn't because I had already experienced it with Dad. It was you get hit with it harder with your mom.
Yeah, and, it sounds. Yeah. I mean, it sounds funny in a way, but I mean, and I said this to somebody the other day. I honestly think I took your mom dying harder than I did my own father. But when I sat there and tried to figure out how that could possibly be, I mean, yes, your mom didn't carry me, so I don't have that biological bond. But I mean, my dad died when I was 10. Mm-hmm. My stepdad died when I was 24. Mm-hmm. So that means combined, I had probably 20 years where I had either one of them as a father. Your mother has been my mom or my second mom for 27 years.
She was constant, just like your own mother. She was constant.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I completely understand where you're at.
She was a matriarch, man. She was the glue.
Oh, my gosh.
Your mom was
my wife. Sometimes more supportive than my wife, but
well, that's what moms are supposed to do.
It just, it's one of those things, and it's a hard loss, for my brothers and I. And I lost my sister back in 2000. She at a very young age. She was only 39, and I lost my stepdad who raised me 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. So, it's hard. I mean, my real dad is there, but even though I'm not, we don't have that closeness that
right.
Most fathers and sons have, but
you try.
It's what's that?
But you try.
Yeah, we try. I mean, definitely, and he's been there the last few years. He's been trying to be more involved, and especially since with my mother when she was in the hospital, because it was essentially my two brothers and I making the decisions, and with me having the medical background, they really kind of relied on me, in my opinion.
Oh, I know how that feels.
And
yep.
So my dad was up there, pretty much the whole time with us, and sometimes you just wonder if you're making the right decisions. And, and think a lot of things after the fact that we make the right decisions.
Yep.
But, in a lot of these ethical issues, and we made the hardest decisions of our life, these last few weeks. And my dad was there for us, for that. And I really, respect him and love him for that and everything. But it's just been a really tough period and tough time for, myself and I just... Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'll get over this. I'll, recover, as far as, all things considered. And, I took a little time off work. I'm back to work, Tuesday. So, which I have to go to the place where she died, because she died at the hospital that I work at, and I'll have to.
Yeah, that's not always easy either. Yeah, my mom.
Patients and stuff, which is going to be hard, and that's what's really going to be hard.
It is, because my mom died in ICU.
The loss of my mother really hit me this week, because obviously with the funeral, you're just busy, going through this and that, and this and that, the planning, the funeral, and then we just buried her on Friday, which you guys came to the cemetery for the burial too.
Right.
And so that was like a week after almost, after the funeral. Mm-hmm. And then it's just all the, going over all of her stuff, all of her, assets, things that we have to go through and get rid of, and finances, and the different things. And it's been rough, it really has, but I'm just exhausted, I guess, mentally
exactly. It's exactly. And the thing is a lot of people think that the worst time, I mean, it is a horrible, horrible bad time. a lot of people think, okay, the worst time is like right after they die into the funeral. What you don't realize, especially if you're a person like you and like I ended up being for both of my parents, I was executor over everything, every medical decision, everything. Yep. And it really hit.
It takes a toll on you. I mean, it does.
Yeah, it really hits after. You don't have any of that stuff to focus on anymore. Once they were buried, it was like, wow. Then all you have left is what you feel.
I didn't make any decisions without my brothers, I mean, I remember getting a call like at 3 a.m, they'd call me, and you see that call from the hospital, you're like, oh no,
Oh, yeah.
And they just like, well, your mom's on more pressors. We want to know, do you want compressions or, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to make any decisions without my 2 brothers, and so just keep her, as a full code for now, and it's just, it's been an emotional roller coaster, it really has, but it's great to, thanks for letting me call in and.
Oh, you can call in anytime.
About a lot of things that are on my mind, regarding,
always
paranormal in general and everything. And I haven't been on the radio for so long. Because all of July she's been in the hospital and I've been up at the hospital twice a day,
Yeah, well,
I didn't go to the conference at Post Town because my mom in the hospital.
Oh, yeah, I know. But seriously.
There's been a lot of things. And so this is really the first thing I've done with, the radio or been on.
And maybe this is what you need to do.
It's fitting that you would return to radio to talk with me, I mean, you and I started out on radio together. And I mean, when you're ready to take the next step and bring your show back or even just, co-host with Elmer or call in on your show. I mean, it was kind of weird to call in on your own show, but if that's what you got to do once in a while so that you keep your feet wet in radio. I mean, do what's right for you.
Well, like I said, I want to believe radio. It's Elmer's show. I mean, that is Elmer. He's the one that got the show going, that lit the firecracker under my butt, and really was the focal point of it. And the show's got to keep going. And I think Elmer is going to help out.
I think Elmer is going to grow, and he's going to be just like it was with me. Right now, I don't think he's quite to the anchor point, but I think he will be soon.
He's a Padawan, but he's holding his own, man.
Yeah. A Padawan. Well, on
doing great, man. I mean,
on the Padawan note, I think we're going to sign off from the show here, but I do want to encourage everybody to visit Paraspeak Radio. There's some great shows on there. Everybody that's on the show, on the network, they're all great. We're one big family. I mean,
and that's what's.
And
really
I think it became real clear that we have a family atmosphere when your mom started to suffer. I mean, it was everyone sitting there.
Everybody was praying for me.
Yes.
Praying, and we're thinking of you, and we
want a positive energy. And,
and I think that's one thing here. And there are so many shows out there that are on our network, and I encourage everyone to go and listen to them all.
And I still, even though I haven't been on, doing a show. I've been listening to all the shows.
Yeah, and you've been in the chat room for most of the shows too. So
I may not be able to listen live,
right?
But
you still listen to them when they go back up.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for calling in, Bob, and I'm going to end the show. And it's up to you if you want to stay on the air, on the phone or not. But I'm going to go ahead and close out the show, and we're going to follow this one up with a replay of Demonology Day with John Zaffis. And part of the reason we're going to do that is because John Zaffis is actually going to be on the network again later this week to discuss his latest book on mystical awakenings. So for anyone out there who's not familiar with the great Johnny Zaffis, now you'll be able to find out who he is. Yes. But for anyone out there who's listening, you already know how great of a man he is. So just enjoy this interview. And we'll see you guys back here for shows later in the week or next week for ours.
Yes.
Good night, guys.
Yep.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Bust a nut.